Well, here we are, Mike. We've worked together
Ken.
for 14 years,
Yes.
which has been a great journey, and we've seen so much together as we've gone. But today I'd love to just chat about your journey, firstly, your journey of faith.
Yeah.
As a Christian organisation and as a principal of a Christian school that teaches Christianly, faith's just critical to what we do. So tell me your faith journey.
Yeah. And when I'm often asked that question, I sometimes feel disappointed that I don't have a come to Jesus moment or some 180-degree turn in my life. And it feels a bit boring, but I've reframed that as just incremental grace of God over the period of my life, because I was raised in a Christian home, fairly conservative, working class family, and my parents did a wonderful job of making sure I was connected in with church. I went to Sunday school. I did
Yep.
boys' brigade
Yeah.
back in the day, all those things. But I think the challenge for me growing up was I had my church life, our church friends, and that was great. But then I also went to some fairly rough schools.
Yeah.
And for me, the challenge was, how do you live out your faith in that environment, which was so contrary
Yeah.
to our home values, if that makes sense. And when I reflect over the journey, I look back with nearly 50 years of wisdom going, gee, I did a poor job of that. But when you're a child in that situation or even a teen, it's really challenging. So
Yeah.
I think I was apparently 4 years old the first time I asked Jesus to be the boss of my life.
Cool.
And then it's just been, I guess, a series of moments where I've had encounters
Yeah.
that have not necessarily been life-changing in the sense of, repent and believe, but have been life-changing in the sense of growing close to Jesus, growing in my maturity. And it's interesting, that's almost accelerated in my 40s, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's not that I've always been on a journey towards Jesus, and I have a beautiful Christian wife, and we've raised our kids in faith and all of that. But it almost feels like in the last 5 or 6 years, I've really begun to grasp what it means to surrender all, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
And so I think my journey's been one of gradually letting things go,
Yeah.
giving up the illusion of control and leaning more and more into Jesus, learning to follow the leading of the Holy Spirit. Am I there yet? Of course not. None of us are.
Yeah.
But it's been a wonderful journey of experiencing new grace
Yeah.
over a long period of time.
Yeah. That's great. Tell me some of the challenges, as you go through your Christian faith, there's that times of doubt and belief and challenge. Any of those have marked you?
Yeah, I think reconciling things like, do you want to choose my words really carefully here? Because I grew up in a wonderful family, had a wonderful home life, but was very aware of, I guess, a divide of, the haves and the have-nots, the working class and the not. And it's interesting, I grew up hating kids in private schools because, they're rich, all the rest of it, and that's so not us. And here I am. Technically, we're a private school. We're not. We're a Christian school.
Yeah.
But I think I've had to work through some real challenges in that space about not seeking what the world says success is, not seeking worldly wealth, but leaning into the things of God.
Yeah.
And this is the funny thing, Ken. The more you give up those things and lean into God, I'm not sure whether it's just that they're not an issue anymore, but it almost creates a freedom in your life where suddenly you look back and you go, well, actually,
Yeah.
I have been blessed more than I ever realized, if that makes sense. But I think too, walking through things like health challenges with family members have been, when I say testing of faith, I've never got to the point where I've doubted if God's real or doubted the goodness of God. I've had this knowledge that God is good, He's there, He's great, but I can't see it right now,
Yeah. That's good.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so in my 20s, I was going through a particularly rough challenge with some family things, and I coined the phrase praising through gritted teeth. That idea of my jaw is clenched, my fists are clenched, but I'm going to praise God no matter what,
That's good.
because even though I can't see it right now, I know that He's there. I know that He's good,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to let go of that no matter what.
Yeah, it's good. How about a sense of calling? Because, we work in a Christian environment.
Yeah.
And calling something that I think is not quoted well today, but we seem to have missed the reasoning and the understanding of calling. How do you see calling?
Oh, that's been a fascinating journey because it's probably something over the last 10 or 15 years that I've really come to grips with. But I look back on my life and there was a calling there long before I realized it.
Yeah.
I wanted to be anything but a teacher. I wanted to be an optometrist. I wanted to be a meteorologist. I love science, and I did everything I could to avoid becoming a teacher. And even since in my early years of education, it was like, oh, there's got to be more to life than this. I had an eye on what was out there. And yet every time I would, back in the day, look at an ad in the newspaper or look at Seek or whatever, the moment I began to do that, I just felt God say, that's not what I've called you to do.
Yeah, wow.
And there's been challenges here at Highlands even over the 22 years I think I've been here now. There's been seasons where I'm like, no, I want to do something else now. And again, whenever I've begun to even consider stepping out,
Yeah.
God's just been so clear in, no, I need you here for now. And so that's brought a great comfort to me.
Yeah.
And as this place has grown and improved and we've created the space for God to do his thing, that calling looks different now.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing it as a command to not leave.
Yeah.
I actually see it as something that, believe it or not, sometimes being a principal can be a little bit tricky. You're not just dealing with students, you're dealing with their parents and staff and outside factors as well. There can be a lot of conflict there, even if it's all well-meaning people doing their best. But it's in those moments when I'm dealing with them, actually understanding that I've been called to such a time as this, to this place for now, brings incredible peace and strength. And it allows me to, I'm going to quote Archie Coates from Holy Trinity, Brompton here. He spoke once about leading from a position of ease, which sounds silly, but when you understand that there's an ease in knowing that you're called, and there's an ease in knowing that despite my failings and despite not having all the answers,
Which we all have.
that creates the space for me to lean into God, to be led by the Holy Spirit. But there's this underlying sense that, right, God, you've put me here, so I'm going to trust that you're going to come through.
Yeah, that's good.
And so that's probably my reflection on calling these days. It's to be in a journey from just stay put to, no, there's actually power in calling.
Yeah, that's so good. So you taught for a number of years and then across Christian education also in the UK. So you've experienced a much broader than just the Australian context.
Yeah.
And you did some administration work in the UK as well, didn't you?
Not really. That was mostly classroom based.
Right, okay.
But that was in some wild schools. Yeah. that was an eye-opening experience.
And what's some of the differences between Australia and the UK in education? And
now, my experience of UK education is over 20 years old, so we need to keep that in mind. But I also know wheels change very slowly over there. I think from a teaching perspective, the big thing is it's so prescribed. They've taken national curriculum to the extreme. On Friday afternoon, you could download your lessons for the next week, and every child in that year level was doing the same subject on the same day, the same lesson pretty much. So they've taken that idea of standardization to the extreme, which might sound great, but it makes for lazy teachers. And I think it also loses sight of a child in the East End of London who barely speaks English is coming at education from a very different perspective to someone who lives in, Yorkshire or Wales or wherever it might be. I think also the other big difference, and we're not just spanning UK to Australia here, we're talking government education to Christian, is just how non-relational it was. We're the other extreme here at Highlands. We're highly relational. We work with students. We're on their side. We're a team. It was the us and them mentality I really struggle with. Teachers were seen as the enemy. And it's hard to love students when they see you that way. And it was just, the discipline system was so punitive. It was, and that's, I was in schools in really rough areas, so I don't want to paint the whole of the UK education system like that. But my experience in the East End of London was, it was hard going. It was not fulfilling work. There had to be a calling to those teachers that stuck it out.
Yeah, wow. How did that form you for coming back to Australia and teaching in the Australian context?
It really helped me to see the value of calmness in the classroom. It was really tempting when you've got kids kicking off big time to respond in kind, to assert your authority, to yell. English teachers yell a lot.
Right.
Whereas I think there's almost an inverse relationship when you speak calmly, when you're just going to bring joy and peace and love no matter what. It has such a powerful effect in a classroom.
Yeah.
It's disarming almost. And I'm the first to say I look back at my experience teaching in the UK and go, gee, I did a bad job. I'm sure I didn't always, but I learned a lot of what didn't work because I tried to adapt to a system and a culture rather than bring a culture.
Yeah, that's good.
If I had my time again, I wouldn't teach there actually. No. But if I had my time again, I'd do it very differently.
Yeah. Did it fashion any of the things that you do in classroom other than discipline and things like that in teaching models? Because very controlled teaching model really operates on a bell curve model, doesn't it? Well,
it does. And it's very content driven as well. Whereas I think what we have the opportunity to do here and what we're trying to do at Highlands is very much create a sense of wonder. One of our attributes of a Highlander is curiosity. We actually want students to be curious. So when you're not constantly managing behaviour and when you're not driven to get through a certain amount of content in a particular time, and we do have some of those pressures, if you can create a sense of curiosity, I wonder why, I wonder if, I wonder what could be, you actually create an atmosphere where rather than trying to force learning, you're actually creating an environment where kids are so inquisitive they want to learn. Tell me more.
Yeah, that's good.
It all sounds a bit utopian, but there's certainly more opportunity to do that.
And that would set kids up for life, really,
absolutely. Because we're all created as curious beings, and I think some education systems beat the curiosity out of us. We want to do the opposite, where we actually create a sense of wonder and curiosity. And of course, we have the privilege here that that's not just about the laws of physics or classic literature. That's about faith and the meaning of life and purpose as well. And that is such a privilege to be a part of, and that's what gets me out of bed every morning.
Yeah, it's so good. So you've then taught for a number of years, and now you've been principal for 13 years the last week.
Yeah.
Which is exciting.
It's gone fast. It's been a long, fast journey.
So tell me about your transition from teacher to, because you were the deputy head of secondary before you took over principal. So a more management type role, and then now as a principal, as a leader.
Yeah.
So your primary role is leadership. Tell me about that journey, the transition from classroom to management to leadership, and what's some of the challenges you think people work through in those things?
I've reflected on this, and I see it in education a lot. We reward great teachers with middle management positions, and then we reward great managers with leadership positions, but we don't help them unpack what the difference between managing and leading is. And it's taken time for me to learn that. The job of a leader is to create an environment where everyone else can flourish. So in my world, my direct reports are my deputy principal, and then I've got 2 assistant principals, 1 primary, 1 secondary. And if I'm doing my job well, I shouldn't have to do any of their work. I'm there to support them. I'm there to meet their needs. I'm there to serve them. And if they're flourishing, then their direct reports flourish. And everything goes smoothly. And so there'll always be things that I just have to do. We're responsible to the government, we're responsible to parents. So there's things that the principal has to do. And I need to oversee things like policy and all that kind of stuff. But it's been a transition of learning my job's not to do those things. My job is to make sure that those things happen. And then to keep one eye on the horizon and go, where are we going next? And for me, that's just not what's the next change in curriculum or what's the next change in pedagogy, but also looking at what's the government doing? Because at the moment, for example, we have the right to employ Christian teachers in a Christian school, which makes a lot of sense to us.
It does.
But there are people out there who go, no, that's not a good idea. So constantly looking to go, what are the things on the horizon that could disrupt God's plan for this place? And what can we do proactively to make sure that at worst they're speed bumps and not complete roadblocks to what we're trying to do here. I summed it up to a previous deputy principal as I was walking her on this journey and went, in a nutshell, managers do,
Yep.
leaders be.
Yep.
I realise that's poor grammar. That a lot of what you do as a leader is who you are rather than what you do. And I think that requires us to be working on really basic stuff like our habits, our character,
Yep.
our spiritual disciplines, those kind of things, because we actually need to be modeling character, resilience, those kind of things. And when you can do that, it brings a sense of calm.
Yeah, that's good.
I have lots of favorite quotes, but one of them is, the job of a leader is to absorb chaos and radiate hope. And that has just stuck with me, because often there'll be things bubbling along beneath the surface. But if I can absorb that chaos and deal with that whilst radiating hope to my staff, the school's not just going to continue to tick along, it's going to continue to flourish, which is what we want.
Absolutely.
But the trick there is I need enough margin in my life that I can absorb that chaos.
Yeah.
And if I'm caught up doing all the things that other people should be doing, I don't have the margin then to absorb that chaos. And so I've got no chance of radiating hope to anyone else.
Yeah.
And then everything starts to spiral down.
Yeah.
And look, the reality is too, I'm not good at doing all those things that I shouldn't be doing. And when I reflect on the last 12 years, I've made a couple of colossal stuff ups. And they've been when I'm doing stuff that it was someone else's job, but I thought I knew how to do it. And whether I was doing it because I felt they couldn't, or sometimes I've got a bit of margin today, I'm going to help. And I wreck everything because it's not actually my job to do it. And it then disempowers people. It creates mistrust. So I've learnt that even if I can do it and I want to do it, if it's not my job, it's probably not worth touching.
So good. Because that's a struggle, isn't it? As you move from management, which is a to-do list effectively, to leadership, which is influence. It's quite a challenging area. And how did you reconcile the to-do list and the need to achieve something today, which I see a lot of people struggle as I've worked with leaders around the world. They struggle with moving from a to-do list to people. How did you journey that?
I think there's part of it we've just talked about is understanding that that's not your stuff to do.
Yeah.
But I think also most people in leadership roles are fairly driven.
Yeah.
They're fairly competent. They're used to ticking things off a to-do list. And so there's almost a sense of guilt going, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
And so that does take some working through. So it's that understanding that it's not your job to do. It's your job to serve.
Yeah.
Is really important. And it's interesting, as I've walked now some of my leadership team through this journey of leadership, they will say things like, I don't know what my job is. And I go, well, you're probably doing something right.
That's right.
And we had someone step into a middle management role this year out of the classroom into a director role. And their question very early on was, how will I know what to do? And one of my wise assistant principals said, just wait, the work will come to you.
Yeah.
And there is an element of that.
Yeah.
About 2 weeks into the role, she went, you're right. It all just came to me. It all just appeared.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is because a leader's job is actually to not fill your diary with a to-do list, but actually have eyes up and out, management by walking around, and you will see the things that need doing. But you're never going to see what needs fixing or what needs doing or who needs supporting if you're stuck in an office looking at a to-do list.
Yeah, that's
it's
very
paradox.
good.
It's a difficult challenge.
Yeah. Management by walk around is really important.
Oh, it is. Absolutely.
And a lot of leaders end up in an office because they've given an office.
Yeah.
And but they don't get out and see what's actually happening.
And I think as well as seeing what's happening, it's about being connectable and relatable as well. If our job is to lead people, and that's what we do, if I'm stuck in my office 5 days a week and, people see me at a staff meeting once a week, when life gets real for them at home or at school or there's a challenge, they're not going to come and want to talk to a stranger.
Yeah.
And so I have little strategies like I'll walk a lap of the school at least once a day.
Yep.
Sometimes it's a 5-minute walk because I'm in a hurry.
Yep.
Other times I can take my time and I'll stop and chat to people, but I want to be seen
Yep.
by students as well as
Yep.
as staff. And the other thing I do is, and I've copped criticism for this in the past, we have a staff common room where our staff have morning tea and lunch.
Yep.
I will try and get to at least one of those every day.
Yeah.
I'll either have morning tea or lunch. And I'm sure people walk in and go, aren't you too busy to be doing this? But I know my staff.
Yeah.
And it's those conversations. People are, don't know if disarmed, they're more relaxed.
Yeah.
We're sharing a meal together.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. And so I know what's happening with their kids. I know they've just bought a new house. I know that, mum-in-law has just passed away or whatever. So it helps me become real, but it also helps me to know who I need to keep an eye out on, who I can be praying for, who I can just check in with.
Yeah.
Because I think a huge thing is people just want to be seen and they want to know they're making a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's part of seeing. But it's also imperative to leaders that they can find those times in the day to say to people, you are actually doing a really good job.
Yeah.
And that's completely superficial if you never actually see them doing their job.
Yeah, that's right. Isn't it interesting? Because people, you said, well, you're too busy as a leader to be there, when actually our role as a leader is to be there.
Yeah, that's right.
It's such an interesting way up, isn't it? So, mate, you mentioned margin.
Yeah.
Which is a really interesting concept in a busy world.
Yeah.
How do you go about creating margin?
Oh, look, it's a difficult one because if you're not intentional about it, you'll never have any. I think for me, probably two aspects. One is asking the question, what do I not have to do?
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous question because if we strip it back to the bare minimum, then we're not going to grow, we're not going to push forward. But I'm pretty sure that if anyone was to ask that question, you would find things in your day that you don't have to do.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a little bit controversial, but I don't think that's just at work. I think that's at home as well.
Absolutely.
I've had conversations in the past with staff members who are, I'm at capacity, I'm so tired, I don't have room. And then the next breath, they're telling me about the Netflix they binge watched the night before. And I'm like, hang on. We need entertainment. We need distraction from work. But there's got to be that balance there as well. I actually think often it's not work that takes away the margin. It's the other aspects of our life where we're doing things that we don't need to do. My very first year as a teacher, my head of middle school where I taught me this expression. He said, you need to divert daily, withdraw weekly, and abandon annually.
Yeah.
And I've never forgotten that. What's something each day that just takes your mind off work, making sure you withdraw each week. We'd call that Sabbath.
Yeah.
And then annual abandonment, that 2 weeks a year where I forget that Highlands exists, is incredibly important. And a really unglamorous answer to that question is I actually think discipline creates margin.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds really not fun and boring, but even in the mornings, for example, skipping the running bit, we'll leave that out because I do that every morning. But I literally get up, walk downstairs, make a coffee, do my Bible plan, head out for a run. You don't have to do that. But I'm just really routined in the mornings. And it just means, A, I never forget anything.
Yeah.
And B, I'm never late.
Yeah.
I'm not the guy screaming down the driveway at 1 minute before I'm meant to be here because I've just got that pattern in place. And sometimes my family will actually tease me about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'd rather have the time free at other stages during the day. So little things like that, I've just found routine helps me because I'm not stressed about getting ready for the day or getting ready for bed or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm just a routine guy. I'm boring.
So ultra marathon running, not everyone could do that.
No, that's right.
And I know
I don't blame them. I don't understand.
and I know I like adventure and pushing my body, and it might not look like it at the moment, but I actually do.
I know you do.
And tell me, if you're not an ultra marathon runner or you're not an adventure junkie, what could you do to get the benefits we talked about in ultra marathon running?
I think just finding something that you can challenge yourself with. I have grave concerns actually about society in that we are so focused on comfort, minimizing distress.
Yeah.
But the stress stimulus is actually what causes growth. I read a fascinating book a couple of years ago called Death by Comfort.
Yeah.
And it's that idea that we are automating so much of our lives. We don't actually need to do anything, but we're actually losing a lot of our resilience physically in terms of our immune system, in terms of our mental capacity, because we're not being put under stress. And so, yes, an ultramarathon will tick that box, but maybe it's learning something new.
Yeah.
Maybe it is getting out and doing some physical activity. Maybe it's forcing yourself to have a cold shower. Now, as silly as that sounds, there's actually science suggesting that where our immune systems are compromised because we're not experiencing extreme heat or extreme cold, because we set the aircon to 22 degrees and that's our life.
Yeah.
So I will literally halfway through my shower every morning, flick it to cold, and it's miserable, but it's doing my body good.
Yeah.
It's actually doing my mind good as well.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just looking for those things that take you out of your comfort zone. We're not talking about being unsafe. We're not talking about extreme things, but do a crossword, do a Sudoku puzzle,
Yeah.
learn something new, put yourself in a social situation that forces you to talk to people that you wouldn't ordinarily. There's lots of little things that can achieve the same outcome, I think.
It's because one of our values in Highlands is grit.
Absolutely. It's my favourite one.
Yeah. How are we doing that with our students?
So we do that in a bunch of ways. We do a camp, year 4, 5, 6, and then once we hit secondary, we do every second year. And they're intentionally designed to safely take students outside their limits.
Yeah.
Now, whether that's overcoming fears through a high ropes course or whether it's going through a mud pit at Emu Gully,
Yeah.
I guess they're really practical examples. But also as well, I think even in the classroom in a learning situation, we're not spoon feeding.
Yeah.
We're actually stimulating growth by going, do you know what? We're going to walk beside you and help you wrestle with that. But we're not going to tell you that. We'll lead you towards the answer, but we're not going to give it to you.
Yeah.
So it's creating that learning environment where you actually, if you subvert the process, you don't get the outcome even if you think you do.
Yeah.
So I think that's one way that we're doing that. But creating opportunities, be it through sport, be it through the musical, to put yourself in situations. Something I love, getting excited here, is we do a chapel service every week, one for primary, one for secondary, and particularly in our secondary chapel, that's student-led.
Yeah.
We actually have 2 students who lead the team. We have students performing on stage. We have students preaching. We have students doing sound and lighting. Does it always go smoothly? Nope, it doesn't always. But because those students are taking on challenges, they're learning. And by the end of the year, chapel's running slick.
Yeah.
And those kids are confident on stage, and we just see that growth and develop. That's another example of grit happening right there.
Absolutely. That's great. Fantastic. So, Mike, you're also an ultra runner, quite a successful ultra runner. And
If you say so.
well, you are. How do you use what you've learned in ultra running to bring into leadership, and how do you use what you've learned in leadership into ultra running?
I think from an ultra running into leadership or life perspective is we're capable of absorbing far more punishment than what we think.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if it's the modern world, the Western world, whether it's always been a problem or not, I think we get very quickly to, I'm at capacity.
Yeah.
I can't do any more. And when you take on ultra marathons, be it a single stage, 150K race or I've done week-long stage races where you're literally running across the country and you've got to get up every morning and go again. There's no out.
Yeah.
Like you don't actually have the option. If I stop now, what do I do? There's no helicopter coming to get me type thing. And so it forces you to develop strategies. It forces you to talk to yourself, to actually encourage you, give yourself the kick up the backside that you need or whatever. It forces you to assess problems. Right, what's going on right now? My legs are still working.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's box 1 ticked. Do I need calories? Do I need to hydrate? Am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? What can I do to try and reframe the situation? And I think when I look at leadership, I see one of my biggest frustrations is seeing people go, it's all too hard and walk away.
Yeah.
When I believe they're not at their capacity.
Yeah.
They think they're at their capacity. But I just think humans are capable of so much more than what they realize.
Yeah.
And, I'd be in that basket if it wasn't for the lessons that I've learnt through endurance sport. It's a hard way to learn the lessons, but I love it. I think that's been a huge thing for me is just learning about my capacity.
Yeah.
That I wouldn't have learned otherwise. Taking it back the other way, what has ultra running taught me about leadership? No, that's what we just did, wasn't it? Going the other way, leadership to ultra running. I think in terms of what I've learned about leadership that I've been able to apply to ultra running is people think ultra running is an individual sport. It's actually not. It requires a team. And even if that team's not present on race day, and often in ultras they are, I have friends and family who crew for me and they'll drive 6 hours through the night to be at an aid station for 30 seconds to stock you up and and out you go again. You need those people. You can't do it alone. But it's not just the event; it's the months that go into it.
Yep.
It's the we're willing to have dinner on our own because Dad's out training type
Yeah.
thing. It's the sacrifice that everyone gives to see one person succeed.
Yeah.
And when I look at my leadership journey, there are many people that have been a part of that, both internal and external to the organisation. The mentors, the fantastic leaders, one of whom I'm talking to now, but also the people who have been willing to walk beside me in similar positions. So we're not always just leading up or leading down. Often we lead side by side with people, and I've had a lot of those people in my life as well as a leader, but I need them in the ultra world as well.
Yeah, that's good. Because many people say leadership is lonely. But is that something you've found people do that by choice rather than trying to build a network around them?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Look, leadership can be lonely in the sense that leadership in any given position is quite unique.
Yeah.
I have a small network I have a large network of principals, but I've got an inner circle. I've got a couple of friends that are go-tos that I will call, and they will understand the challenges that I face.
Yep.
Very few people understand that.
Yeah.
And whether you're the CEO of a bank or you're a pastor or you're a school principal, those spaces are very small.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of us around. There's only one of us in each community.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it can be lonely. But I agree with what you suggested, that I think a lot of leaders isolate themselves as well. Now, either because they think they're above everyone else or because they're trying to absorb all the chaos on their own is not for me to speak to. But I've learnt that I need people in my life. And it's not something I've always been good at.
Yeah.
I've got better at that in recent years. And that's been a real answer to prayer, to be honest. One of my prayers has been, Lord, I need more people in my life because I feel like I'm carrying too much of this on my own.
Yeah.
And God's been really faithful in that. And I am incredibly fortunate that whilst I still need to maintain respectful boundaries and appropriate boundaries, because I started here as a teacher 22 years ago, a lot of the staff are my friends.
Yeah.
And that's taken some navigating as I've become a leader of what I can share and what I can't. But what a blessing to be able to work with your best friends.
Yeah.
But also have a respectful environment where they understand when I need to be the leader.
Yeah.
And they understand when we can just have a coffee together, and that's okay too. It's a really blessed position I find myself in here.
So good. So tell me, we've had a couple of things happen over the years, things like great things, not just the challenging things, things like the Leadership Summit in the UK.
Yes.
We were across in the States last year to the Grow Conference. What are some of the things that's marked you in those journeys from a spiritual perspective?
Oh, they have been hugely impacting, and I'm so blessed that I work at a place where I have leaders who are prepared to invest in me and go, we're actually going to go to this conference, which is on the other side of the planet. And I realize that's a big commitment, but the impact that has had on my life has been remarkable. And I guess to be more specific, went to the Alpha conference in London a couple of years ago and the pre-tour that went with that. And for me, seeing God at work in the UK, where I had worked 20 years previously in some highly secularized, let's say, rough, some of them actually gang environments in one particular area I worked in, to go back 20 years later and visit those same places since the church has moved into that area and just the complete transformation in the community, the impact that had on me was enormous. And go, if the Church of England can plant a vicar in that place and have that sort of impact, imagine what God can do here. And so I came back from that experience going, yeah, Lord, I'm going to pray for revival like everyone else does, to having a mind shift of, why can't that happen here?
Yeah, so
not
good.
just here, Australia, not just here in the church. It can happen in a school.
Yeah.
Imagine if a school led a renewal of the Holy Spirit in this place, the impact that could have.
Absolutely.
So things like that have been incredibly impactful. And I think of the travel I've been able to do and the conferences that I've been able to go to and the sites I've been able to visit, it's actually been the non-educational ones that have been the most impacting.
Yeah.
It's being able to go to the Coca-Cola World Headquarters, which you'll remember I was grumpy about because Coca-Cola, they just sell high-priced sugary drinks to developing nations. I had all these reasons why that was not okay.
Yeah.
And I walked in, and what I learned about marketing in that space, by the end of the tour, it's like, right, where's a Coke? Which tells you how much marketing worked. But what I understood there was they weren't marketing a product, they were marketing a feeling. What does it mean to actually tap in to what it means to be human, to tap into emotions, those kind of things? How could that translate to a classroom?
Yeah.
We're not selling them Coke, but we're connecting with something, a longing in a human, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and I could list half a dozen examples of things like that I never thought would have the impact that they would,
Yeah.
that have been part of shaping who I am as a leader and as a Christian.
Yeah, that's so good. And from those type of trips, the importance of personal development and professional development. How does that relate to you when you think about your personal development, the development of a person, a great human being, and then the professional development for the expertise we need to do our job? How does that affect you?
I think something I've appreciated is in conversations with you, we've talked about PD. The P can be personal or professional, and they're not mutually exclusive. If they're a Venn diagram, I think the overlap is huge, because if we're developing as people, we're going to develop as a leader.
Yeah.
But when we develop leadership expertise, we become better people, because I've often said leadership starts with leading yourself. If you can't lead yourself, how can you lead anyone else? You're just being a phony. And so for me, that has meant sometimes study, but sometimes actually saying, hey, Ken, can I take some time off to go and race across Scotland? And you having the grace to go, that will make you a better human and therefore a better leader. And so I think, like a lot of life, we can be guilty of deconstructing to the point of losing sense of identity. And I see that in so many areas. Oh, that's my spiritual life. That's my work life. That's my family life. Sorry, we're all spiritual. You don't have a choice in that. And all of those things not only overlap, but they affect each other. I know if a teacher's struggling at school or not doing a great job, 9 times out of 10, it's got nothing to do with their commitment to their job. It's when you have that conversation and unpack it, it's what's going on at home. It's what's going on in extended family. It's what's going on financially. We don't park those things at the door. And so I think when we develop any part of what makes us human, we're actually developing all of us. All aspects of our identity benefit from that.
That's great. So you now sew back into the teacher world through your role as chair of ACS.
Yeah, I try.
Yeah. How's that? How are you finding that journey, moving from the leader of a community now to the leader of multiple communities and influencing multiple communities? And obviously grabbing an organisation that's, has the potential to grow. How are you finding that journey?
It's been fascinating. And it's almost, we spoke about that journey from management to leadership. It's like an extension of that, because at Highlands, even though I'm trying to step out of management to leadership, with associated Christian schools, we're there to serve our member schools. I don't have any influence on what happens in the ground in their schools. And so my role becomes supporting an executive director who can, and leading a board who can then create the environment where we can support other principals, if that makes sense. So it feels like we're one step removed again. And so that really becomes about the being versus doing. We have an executive director who does a lot of the doing. I have the privilege of being able to, I guess, almost sit outside that and not only encourage our ED, but encourage our principals to walk beside them. And some of that's quite intentional, reaching out. Others, I'll only hear from them if they need me, and that's okay too. But I think the challenge in Christian schools, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, is that we're independent, but we're not. From the government perspective, we're private schools, because
we are.
even though the government, we live in an amazing country where the government contributes to education here, so we can keep our fees down. But we have fee-paying parents, therefore we're a private school. But a lot of our Christian schools aren't part of a system. It's not like Catholic education or the Lutheran education system, or even Seventh-day Adventist, where they have head office. They have a system. Our schools, a lot of them are truly independent. And so I see part of my role is helping them realise you're not on this alone. We're in this together. And so I've really tried to bring the language of kingdom building work. And so they don't want a peak body telling them what to do. They've got their own board. They've got a church more often than not that they're partnering with. I don't want to interfere with their mission, their vision in their context. But I also want them to know we're brothers in arms, brothers and sisters in Christ doing this together. And it's not your school versus mine, even though we're completely independent. And some would say some of the schools within that network are our competitors. They're here in our city. But we've built an amazing relationship where we go, do you know what? This is all about God's kingdom. And when you thrive, the kingdom benefits. When I thrive, the kingdom benefits. What can we do together, given the constraints of our systems, to see Christian education flourish in this country? That gets me excited.
Yeah, that's so good. So, Mike, as we finish, you love quotes. What would be a leadership quote you would put out to people to say, hey, this is a key thing on leadership?
Gee, which one will I pick? I'm going to go two because I'm greedy. One is one that I actually learnt from you, and that's walk towards problems slowly.
Yeah.
I look back over my career and some of my regrets are when I've solved problems too quickly or made decisions too quickly. And in some of those situations, it was the right decision. We actually got the right outcome. But in not walking towards it slowly, I didn't give people time to process. I perhaps didn't allow for natural justice to occur.
Yeah.
I didn't allow for everyone to have a voice. And so we got to the right outcome, but people felt burnt along the way. And I hate that.
Yeah.
So walking towards things slowly, regardless of what it is,
Yep.
I think there's tremendous benefit in that. The other is actually a quote from an Oscar Wilde book of all things. And I can't remember the book, which is terrible. But in the very first chapter, one of the opening, I think it's the opening page, someone is asked a question, how did you become an alcoholic? And they replied, gradually, then suddenly.
Wow.
And so those three words, gradually, then suddenly, have shaped so much of what I've done as a leader because things don't fall apart suddenly. Most problems don't come about suddenly.
Yeah.
It's gradual decline until suddenly you've got a problem.
Absolutely.
And so I think the job of a leader is to be trying to identify what the gradualies are.
Yeah.
And if I can give a real life example, I maybe 12 months ago just noticed that staff dress code was starting to slip a little bit. And look, we're not a stuffy private school, but we also sit in a market where we've got the most independent schools
Yep.
of anywhere in the country. It's a saturated market. And so there's expectations that come with being a fee-paying school. And so I just stood up in one staff meeting and went, hey, we need to pick up our game a little bit. It was a gradually and then suddenly moment. Well, that ended began a 12-month journey of rewriting the dress code and all the rest of it.
Wow.
But it's much easier to just pick up the little things. The standard that you walk past is the standard you accept. If you can identify the gradualies, they never become a suddenly that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
There's a positive spin on that as well. No one ever got fit suddenly. No one ever got healthy suddenly. No one ever got a degree suddenly.
Yeah.
No one got into leadership suddenly.
Yeah.
It's all the little gradualies that become a suddenly one day.
That's great. It's great to sit and chat, Mike. We've
it.
done Journey for a long time, and we've seen some amazing things, and appreciate all the effort you've put in to make this place a great place of work, best Christian workplace, thriving workplace, and just appreciate you, mate, and all the work you do.
Likewise, I love working here. I love working with you.
Thanks, mate.